next up, we're going to hear from two hugely innovative teams for how they've been building their brands from the ground up. But before we welcome them to the stage, let's see a short film on Team Fortzilla.
Launched in 2019 by Ford, Team Fortzilla has a unique approach to esports. We pride ourselves on an inclusive approach to recruitment. We pride ourselves on our community, our culture, and our sense of humour. We now have over 40 handpicked racers who compete in national competitions. We race in Forza, GT Sport, iRacing, Project Cars, Assetto Corsa Competizione, R-Factor, Rocket League and Race Room. We want to give everyone the chance to join us on our journey as we aim to become the best esports racing team in the world. And we can't wait to meet you at local events, car shows and gaming fairs. Race hard and have fun. See you on the track.
Oh, absolutely brilliant. Well, please welcome from Ford of Europe Communications and Public Affairs, their Senior Manager for Brand Communications and Content Development, and I'm going to throw on an accent, Emmanuel Lubrani, and from recently publicly floated Semper Fortis Esports, Kevin Soltani. I'm going to mix it up. All right, brilliant. So thrilled to have you both here, because I think this is one of the things people would love to do most, isn't it, is set up their own esports team. It's something that's a big dream, but it's a lot of hard work. So, Emmanuel, I want to start with you, first of all. Tell me about Team Fortzilla. Where did it come from? Why was it created?
So it comes from various different reasons, and a lot of them have been explained throughout the day. You know, connecting, engaging with a gaming audience in an authentic and relevant way. So that's what we try to do. So, you know, we talked about endemic and non-endemic brands, and I think Ford sits a little bit in between because we don't make games. We're not a gaming brand, but we are present in a lot of games. I think Ford vehicles in sim racing titles are probably one of the most driven, you know, in the world. So there was this potential there that we believe needed to, you know, to be activated proactively, and that's why we decided to set up our own team.
Something that we've talked about a lot today is brands that have a commercial incentive joining this space. So aside from the fact that you kind of already had that foot in it, that wheel in it, I guess, you know, what drove you to think, okay, we're going all in like this?
Well, I mean, we all know how big the gaming audience is, and when we looked at the data, it was very clear that, you know, the stereotype of the gamer being a teenager wasn't true. You know, 35 years old, I think, is the average age of a gamer, with a fair mix between female and male. I mean, on various platforms, but that's reality. So this is clearly an audience that you know, has money, buy cars, and we just wanted to make sure that we remained relevant to them as a brand, and bridging, you know, the virtual world and all these cars we have in racing titles to our actual product in real life is, I think, our key objective.
I think for a name like Ford as well, when you enter a space like this, you don't want to be just another esports team. You know, there's a lot of, I guess, embarrassment riding on something like that, where you could crash and burn quite spectacularly with a big name attached. So, you know, that hasn't been the case. Team Fortzilla has done really well. So what for you makes it different? What for you has, you know, how have you established yourself as this kind of standout brand?
First of all, by not, you know, entering this world as Ford Esports team. Yeah. So we settled for the name Team Fortzilla, which we thought was a bit more playful and more relevant to this audience. But what it gives us as well is it allows us to connect and talk to this audience, you know, in a different way. Ford is a, you know, long-established company. And it can sound a little bit corporate for this audience, and that's what we wanted to avoid. And also, and I think Charlie mentioned it earlier, there's a difference between esports and gaming. So Team Fortzilla is our entry as an esports team to the gaming world, and I think we want to build that. We want to reach a wider audience that's the sim racing esports audience. But we have to go through that because this is what we are, and this is how we will build our credibility in the industry.
I mean, speaking of building credibility, I think the journey that you've been on demonstrates absolute, credibility in the brand that you've built. So tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, we are the newest floated esports company. I think the newest in the world, or arguably at least in Europe. And it is a kind of cliche thing that's been asked. Why float? Why now? Why esports? And all three of those have different answers. But I think giving an opportunity back to the publicly traded arena and giving it back to them to have a hand and a say in it is a different kind of feel, especially when you're starting from zero. We literally started from zero as an esports company. Each one of us comes from different backgrounds. I used to own a League of Legends team that ended up selling in a regional. And nowadays that would have been, as we just saw, a $30-40 million takeover. But in 2017, it was just another regional team. We took that experience combined with our sports knowledge, which our chairman comes from Everton Football Club's ex-chairman, Wembley Stadium. He's been all over the map for the Premiership, and saying, okay, what does this country need? What does, not just this country, but what does this country in esports needs? We've had a couple of predecessors before us, but it seems to be a massive brain drain, no matter what you do in this country, right? Even Fnatic, right, for a long standing, most of their operations are not in the UK. And so how to be successful, we want to do it here. We want to do it the right way. And so we did choose to go very slowly. We're still just after 3 months, just in one title. We've seen to try to perfect that title. We got top 3 in Europe last year, 6th in the world, without the world championships, but there was a ranking and we did well. And now we're adding 3 more esports in the next 2 months. And we're doing that very cautiously, but at the same time for UK first, and then the rest of the world second. And we hope that brands would appreciate us coming home.
Is there a challenge in trying to build slowly and carefully? Because I think caution is something that we don't have a lot of in esports particularly, but keeping up with such a fast-paced industry. Like you said, now you're seeing this period of quite rapid expansion. So how do you maintain those principles of careful, cautious growth?
Yeah, it's hell in a handbasket, right? Because it's like there's a million things to do, but burn rates are a very real thing, right? And some of our own competitors all around the world, it's a very difficult thing to manage. I think CEO of G2, he's very famous for saying this, Carlos says, I can't pay my players in Pringles. And that's just true, right? And look at his jersey. He's got 57 logos on the jersey, and each one of those means something. And it really do. And each one of them have some massive activations. So it's really difficult playing catch up because we see all of these brands falling. We see, not falling, going to a certain team, going to a certain org. And then, it's a top to bottom thing. 80% of the brands are in 20% of the logos, jerseys. And so what happens to the other 80% of us trying to fight for those big names? Most of them have said, you need to do this, you need to do that. Well, that's going to take 2 to 3 years, no matter who you are, no matter how much money you have behind you. Some of our own competitors have shown that, right? So money is not always the issue, right? Having the money, it's just performing, having a good community, and all those other buzzwords that we've said here today. But you got to do it all now if you're starting today. You can't just lift one trophy or expect to get top 5 in the world and have that mean anything anymore. I think it's just it's a formula that a lot of us are still trying to figure out because of that top to bottom brand approach.
How far ahead are you looking in your planning? Because when you look at a traditional business model, any kind of startup, they can look 10, 20, 30 years, particularly when they want to be part of the innovation or the industry they're driving. But with esports, it's so difficult because it's so audience-led. You can build a team, 2 weeks later, everybody can switch off that title. It doesn't exist anymore. So how are you planning for longevity in an industry that changes as ours does at the whims of an audience?
So, we're famous for saying in a couple months we'll see some of our words come to fruition that we're not a pure play esports team. We do own an esports team that we've rebranded to our parent name and Semper Esports, but This is not all we do. We're building some really cool things in the background that hopefully we'll be able to talk around Christmas time, but that's a cliche thing to say as well. You can't talk until you do, but that's what we do. Our non-exec director, Mr. Nolan Bushnell, is the founder creator of Atari, the original Atari. So he's the godfather of gaming. So I'd like to think that he'll kill me before any of the other shareholders do. And so when you're not a pure play esports team, you got to look kind of short term because gaming moves so quickly. But as far as our pure play esports, and for now Rocket League and 3 other titles we're adding, I look at Rocket League as I look at it in 5-year increments, and we need to survive in order for it to thrive because there is no franchise model yet. And some other tier 2 esports, I could see some great things happening once they get that franchise opportunity. And I think it starts with Rocket League. So we're very heavy Rocket League. I really believe in it. And so the whole industry, we like to take it 5 years at a time. And I'll just piggyback off of, don't love all of his words, but Gary Vee did say something. He's like, if you could just survive 5 more years as an esports org, it'll just be good for everybody, right? And I do see that kind of 5-year mark as being true.
Emmanuel, I'll finish with you. What do the next 5 years look like for you?
Oh, it's hard to tell. No, it's a great adventure, and there's buzzwords. Authenticity is one, but I strongly believe that we walk the talk. And for example, we started last year a project called P1, where we basically turned to the gaming community to help us create a virtual racing car. And we did that. We got more than 250,000 votes, and people chiming in. And we have our Team Fortzilla P1 car now. And it was, human-centric design was also mentioned earlier. So it's not just us engaging with the community and, to let them have a say in a virtual car. It's also a lot of learning for our design team, in how gamers think, what they want, etc. So that's what I mean by authenticity. That's just one example, but I think this is where we do things slightly differently from others. So to answer your question, the next 5 years will be more of that, more of gaming, competing, winning, fun, but also a lot of learning. That's what is key for us, learning and understanding this audience.
I do think that's a great way to, as I said, kind of audience whims of esports is to give them a stake and to build them into your plan so that actually you're going where they're going and they're going where you're going. I think there's
absolutely
something about
that's key,
that.
yeah.
Brilliant. Well, it was so fantastic to speak to you both. I wish we had all day because I've got so many questions, but that's all for now. So can we have a huge round of applause for Emmanuel and Kevin? Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Sure, thank you.